What's going on, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Ben NFL Super Bowl Sunday. And as always, with me is my co-host Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, we're finally here. We've been working our way through the entire season, and it's finally upon us. We got Super Bowl fit. What is it? 59 this
Yeah,
coming
59.
Sunday. Yep, and and for me, I made the switch at the beginning of the season just to player props. Seemed to work out really well for me. Had to double check, but pretty sure I had more winning weeks than losing weeks. And when you combine that with a lot of the plus numbers you can find out there with the player props, it's been a very nice season. So I've really been looking forward to this week. Got more than a handful of plays locked and loaded, ready to go. Just waiting for Sunday to get here to see which ones fire off and bring some cash back.
Absolutely. That's what we're about to do for you in this episode. We're going to try to make you guys money. Um, Take you through all the bets we can, all the prop bets, go the over unders, whatever you can, all the angles on this game because this is the biggest betting day of the year, and it's my favorite because we get to make a lot of money. And I've been pretty perfect the past three Super Bowls on this show as we've done this show the past 3 years. Every Super Bowl I have been perfect on my bets and I hope to keep my streak going this year as well. So you've joined for if this is your first time showing up, this is a great time to be tuning in because I'm about to hit on all my bets I make. But before we get into all those, we'll recap what happened in the championship round since we have not gotten to that yet. Um, we'll recap it real quick. Obviously, we know who played: Chiefs, Bills, and Washington and the Eagles. The home teams were both the favorites. They both won against the spread, both covered, and then both games hit the over. And and then my record was 2-2. Obviously I hit on the Chiefs. I took a -1.5, and I also hit on the Commanders Eagles over the total. And that was my best pick. I thought this was kind of the easiest bet of the weekend. They in the previous week you saw both these offenses explode for a lot of points, especially the Commanders against the Lions and the Eagles against Rams. So you know that you can score. So and then you saw the running backs, or at least Saquon Barkley take over, led to 3 touchdowns. Eagles hit the over by themselves on that game, and yeah, also the Chiefs, covering was a good win for me. But yeah, just Patrick Mahomes doing his thing, win the game for them. But my worst pick was the the command well the under on the Chiefs Bills game. Definitely whipped on that. I thought the defenses played better in those games for both teams. But James Cook really hit them hard for 2 touchdowns. And the Chiefs defense was able to make a good stop at the end, but they allowed way too many points throughout the game. And the same for the Bills defense. 3 touchdowns on the run game as well, scoring 61 points total. Blew out the over. So I definitely lost big on that one. So pretty even week overall, but definitely going to be better going into this Super Bowl Sunday. How did you do in the championship round?
Yeah, I had a nice little championship round. Did go 2-2, but like I've been saying all season, when you can find that plus money out there, 2-2 doesn't mean losing. Finished up over a unit for the weekend. Um, like I, given out a couple weeks back when we did the show, Saquon to score 2 TDs was plus 200. It's almost criminal that the odds were as low as they were. I'm almost sick at myself that I didn't play the plus 3 TDs. Because, I mean, come on, he had 2 TDs by halftime. It was, you know, it's hard to say that that was the easiest bet on the weekend for me, but it definitely came in pretty sweat free. I was also on James Cook anytime TD, which I believe was somewhere around the plus 140 range, maybe plus 150. Um, I did have somebody from the LGR ask me a few days prior to the game being played, did I feel that Josh Allen anytime TD was the safest bet on the weekend? Flat out told him no. And ironically, we saw that uh, be a rather critical instance of the game. Defensive line for KC being able to shut down Josh Allen at the goal line in what appears to be a modified tush push. Um, we tend to see Josh
Yeah,
Allen
it's a
almost
push
back
with that.
out.
Well, there's no push. He didn't really get a
That
push.
part,
It's kind of like he just does it on his own.
yeah. And as we see, definitely not the same success rate. Um, but like I said, 2-2 on the weekend. Still able to walk away with a profit, which always makes it more enjoyable. Um, I recall off the top of my head, I was playing the Josh Allen interception prop, which didn't come through. Um, but I did like the situation I found myself in. Did catch a bad beat with Kenneth Gainwell, who ended up going down with a concussion in that championship game. Sadly enough, on a kickoff return, ended up finishing the game, I believe, with 8 yards. Only needed three more yards, didn't get it. And as we see how the game script played out, with it turning into a blowout, Will Shipley coming in at the end of the game. Those are likely carries that we would have saw go to Gainwell. And if Shipley being able to bust off some major runs at the end of the game was any indication of what Gainwell could potentially do out there, I would have gotten my 3 yards. So, you know, walked away with a bad beat, but like I said, still overall a good weekend. Getting that plus money and being able to walk away with a little bit of a profit when it was all said and done.
All right. Before we get into our bets on the Super Bowl, if you guys can help us out by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you really want to help us out, you can join Coffee or Ko-Fi. The link is in the description down below. And join whichever tier suits you. That would be very much appreciated. We just appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching us. Um, so yeah, we'll get right into it. Obviously, we know who's playing: Kansas City Chiefs at the Philadelphia Eagles, even though it's in New Orleans. The Chiefs are -1.5 going into this game. The over and under total is set at 48.5 points, depending on where you look. Some have it at 49. Obviously, you can look at multiple options, multiple books, to get the best number that you think is good for you. I think the best number is at 48.5. You can get the Chiefs somewhere. Sometimes you can get them at. I've seen them at -1. Um, I'm not sure the hook so much matters in this one, so I'll just take the -1.5. And then the money line is at Chiefs -120, and the Eagles are at even odds to win the game. Um, so yeah, I'll get right into my picks. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs -1.5. I'm going to take the over on the 48.5. I'm going to take the money lines with the Chiefs, and but I will take the Eagles in the first half. I think it's -0.5 point. I think they are, and those will be my bets to start off. The reason why I think that because Eagles, it's going to be the biggest thing is not letting Saquon Barkley control this game. The Eagles rely on him a lot on their offense. Um, you can tell this by their 31st ranked passing offense and second ranked rushing offense. So you can see how much they rely on that run game and Saquon Barkley basically carrying them. And the offensive line is a big part of it, which their offensive line has had some injuries lately. They had to do some mixing with the center. And obviously they have an extra week of rest. So we'll have to see on the injury report how well they're doing. But that still is concern for them. And they just have to force it onto Jalen Hurts' shoulders. I mean, he played well in the last Super Bowl matchup against the Chiefs, and he played like his best game, and it still was not enough to beat the Chiefs. Obviously, he made that key fumble that led to the Chiefs. That was pretty much the difference in that game. And I think that kind of thing can happen when you put it all on Jalen Hurts. Um, Chris Jones obviously is going to be a major factor in stopping the Eagles' offense, as well as C. Signal dialing up blitzes and putting a lot of pressure on Hurts. Chiefs allowed just 98.5 rushing yards per game in the playoffs. Um, so I think they can contain Saquon Barkley. Um, but we've seen it all through the playoffs. When Mahomes wants to turn it on, he can turn it on whenever he wants to. He'll make the plays that he needs to. He'll just get it to the right guys. Obviously, I think he has better weapons this time around. Obviously, he has Pacheco and Hunt in the backfield, but now he has Worthy, Kelsey, Brown, Hopkins, Schuster. I think he has a lot better weapons in this matchup. So I think he'll be able to when he really if he has to score points in a hurry, I think he'll be able to. I think he'll be able to get to his guys. And Andy Reid obviously has Andy Reid to dial some really good plays for him to make that happen. The Eagles defense relies a lot on turnovers. So as long as the Chiefs take care of the ball, I think they'll be able to do a lot of damage because the Commanders could have kept in the game if they didn't turn over the ball so much. They were moving the ball in that Eagles defense a lot in that game, and it was just the turnovers that kept hindering them. And I think if they took care of the ball, then that game's a lot different. And I think Kansas City's not a team that's really going to turn over the ball a lot. I don't see that happening too much in this game. So I believe that the Chiefs have the advantage in that case, and I think they'll be able to move the ball in this Eagles defense. And I think I think just overall, there's just no way I'm going to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in this Chiefs dynasty. They've just been too good. And we've seen them over and over come through when they've had to. And yeah, I think they're just going to win this game for all those reasons I just said. But I'll give you a little bit more. Chiefs 18-2 straight up last 20 games, 4-1 against the spread last 5 games against the Eagles, 4-1 straight up versus the Eagles, 6-0 against the NFC and their past 6 matchups. So for all those reasons, I like the Chiefs, and like I said, I like the over. But I do like the Eagles in the first half, minus a half point. But sticking with the Chiefs will go for get their three-peat.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what you just said there, especially with the Eagles to win the first half, but even still sticking with KC to win the game outright. Um, as you mentioned, there's statistically, as far as records and past history, definitely on the side of the Chiefs. I mean, at a certain point, you got to start employing that Brady logic, where you had to be a fool to bet against Brady in a Super Bowl, and unfortunately, I think that's the case that we find ourselves in here with Mahomes. Last year we talked about a lot of the struggles they had throughout the regular season, and would they be able to turn things on in the playoffs? And they did. They did exactly what you might say they need to do this season, and that's exactly what we saw occur again. Struggles in the beginning of the year, um, just injuries, regular season issues, we said it all year. They had to be the luckiest team out there because they kept finding ways to win in some of the most unconventional manners. And here yet again, we find Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I definitely like them to win this game outright. Now, regardless of what side you might like in this game, the one thing I would suggest is wait until after kickoff and looking at the live markets, because depending on what side you're looking at and who scores first in this game, with as close as the spread is and as close as the odds already are, when this game closes, we're likely going to see something similar to what they are now. But basically, the team that doesn't score first, you're going to be able to get plus money on them, likely a better number than what you're seeing now for the Eagles. Definitely a better, you're talking about a plus number versus the minus 120 you're seeing right now currently for the Chiefs. So I definitely think there is more an advantage to potentially wait until kickoff has occurred and even that first score in the game, because I do expect a little bit, moderate scoring. I would disagree with you about the under coming in, but I do, think that we'll clear 40 points in this game. So it's more,
You're taking the under?
yeah, I'll be on
Yeah.
the under in this game. Part of that being, KC hasn't been a very explosive team on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, they are very productive as far as moving the ball downfield, which I think is going to play into a little bit of a slower game script, that combined with the fact that we expect the Eagles to lean heavily on their run game. I do expect a little
That's the
bit less.
problem, the fact that they will lean on the run game. That's why I think they will score a lot through that run game, just as they've done throughout the playoffs, and that's why I think that they'll score a lot. Um, and then I think the Chiefs are just going to be able to keep pace, and that's just gonna
And I
they're gonna
don't
score quickly.
necessarily disagree with you, but basically you start getting into the question of how many scoring opportunities will there be? Because even if you're being successful with the run, and not to say that we don't see Barkley break off a
Yeah, the
large
problem is
run.
Barkley scores, big
Yeah,
runs. Like he scores quickly. It's not
exactly.
like a methodical run game. It's just kind of like a big impact play that scores quickly.
So yes, that's definitely a potential threat in going after the under. But like I said, I do think, we see a little bit of a slower game. Um, you know, not maybe we don't see a more typical third quarter performance out of both teams, just given it being the Super Bowl, extended halftime, just a number of different issues that historically have seemed to affect, not to say affect teams negatively in the Super Bowl, but things that would definitely lean more to the possibility of a under on the game total coming in. Now, one thing I have done, which I rather like, and this is part of why I love all the props and available, just bets made available during the Super Bowl, because you do get a little bit of an insight into what some of the sports books are thinking, what they're looking at, and with this, one of the many props out there I was able to find is basically. Uh, a points total band where you're talking about getting more than one number.
Hmm.
And the way they had this priced, basically 41 to 50, the final score to finish between, from 41 to 50 points plus 200, as well as 51 to 60 plus 250. Now, I played both of these numbers because I do think that if we see the over in this game, we're not talking about blowing past the over by a lot. When you start
No.
working out some of the numbers and how the math works out with, with touchdowns and the field goals, if the over hits, I wouldn't be shocked if we are talking about the total finishing around 52, 53, maybe 55 in that range. So looking at these two numbers, basically, even if the under, my original play on the under 49, I was able to get it at 49. You can find it at 49 and a half. I do think we see that number going up as we get closer to Sunday. So if you're looking at playing any unders, now would be the time to jump in. But with these multiple points or point total bands, essentially, if the over does happen to come in, and we're talking about getting that 250 back and it falling between 51 and 60, I'm gonna cover myself as far as the other point band, 41 to 50, and as well as with the original under 49. So I do like the position I have myself in there, because I don't think we see a true shootout where we're talking about a final score being something like 35, 32, 33, 30, somewhere in. We don't see 60 points. I really feel strongly about that. Um, so, I would lean to the under in this game. I'm definitely playing the under 49. But as I said, I wouldn't be completely shocked if we see some occurrence where the final score falls around that 52, 53 range.
All
And
right.
well, I was just going to touch on this. As you mentioned, I'm on the under, but I do expect the potential that we get some big plays out of Philly. Can the Chiefs stop Saquon? Like we just mentioned, the big play threat possibility is just rampant on the offensive side of the ball with Philly, with potential deep pass, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, um, even Dallas Goddard, who got an anytime touchdown on him coming in at plus 280, but also looking at the longest touchdown in the game. Now, this is something I've targeted before in past Super Bowls, typically going with the under, but riding with the over in this game with the longest touchdown over 39 and a half. Um, well, I do think it's more likely that we would see big play, not necessarily successful big plays, but at least the attempts downfield, more common on the Philly side of the ball. But the Chiefs still have potential playmakers and threats for to get downfield, busted plays. Xavier Worthy, another player I'm riding this TD prop with at plus 150. His speed has been on display all playoffs, so would not be shocked to see as I mentioned, the over 39 and a half on the longest touchdown coming in. One of the few minus numbers I'm actually playing out there. I believe it was about minus 118. Um, Here we go. Yep, excuse me. Yep, right now I was right. Minus 118 on the over 39 and a half yards, the longest touchdown. And I did find a separate prop where which team will have the longest touchdown. And going with Philly in that game is another minus number right there at minus 118. So I do think that big play potential exists within this game, even though I'm going to be riding with the under on the game total.
All right. He's mentioned a lot of props there. We'll get into some other fun props for you guys. Um, Obviously, we'll go with the biggest one first. Super Bowl MVP odds. Patrick Mahomes, obviously the favorite at plus 120. Saquon Barkley comes in at number two, plus 260. Jalen Hurts plus 350. Travis Kelsey at plus 1500. Worthy at plus 2500. Brown at plus 3500. And Hunt plus 6000. What do you have winning Super Bowl MVP? And do you have like a sneaky bet that maybe to get Super Bowl MVP?
Um, Unfortunately, the way MVP markets have worked out as far as how the voters out there like to handle the voting, I mean, really, it's a scenario where you got to ask yourself, who do you see winning this game? If you see the Eagles winning this game, we're likely talking about Hurts being a big favorite to walk away with the award.
Yeah,
Yes,
a
there's
lot
still
of
the
value at plus
potential.
350.
Yeah, and yes, there's the potential that we see Saquon walk away with it if we're talking about a scenario where the Eagles win. But with the odds being as low as they are, I would almost entertain, especially if you're targeting somebody like Saquon, um, looking at potentially parlaying a couple of his props together because in whatever scenario we're talking about him winning the MVP, he's got to have at least two touchdowns. With as high as his rushing prop is, I may say stay away from the rushing prop if you decide to try and parlay a couple correlated props together. Uh, but you look at something like two touchdowns. You parlay with that, something along the lines of maybe a receiving prop, maybe a rushing attempts prop. Now, this is something I've been able to cash on a couple times this season with the Eagles, just simply because of how much they run the ball with Barkley. We currently see that number at 21 and a half, which is a number he's covered multiple times throughout the year. Um, so you could, look at parlaying that along with the two touchdowns, um, which is still just insanely low. I mean, it's still only plus 200 for Barkley to score two touchdowns in this game. Um, but I would look at potentially putting together two or three legs for a parlay um, to see the odds that it would give you on a player like Saquon, where Plus 250 just seems too low when you start getting into the conversation that it would take for him to win the Super Bowl MVP. And I just slapped together plus 2 TDs and over 21 and a half carries, and I'm seeing plus 300 just on that. So you may be able to find more value on a 2 or 3 leg parlay um, versus playing Saquon to win the MVP through that bet. Um, Now, if it's a scenario where we're talking about the Chiefs winning, I think there's a good chance. You got to look at Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not sure you could necessarily find as much value behind trying to parlay some props together with him, just because it can be tricky trying to guess what that Kansas City Chiefs offense would do.
Yeah.
They might come out there, lean on the run a little bit more. We might see less passing attempts out of Mahomes in the offense, which, while it might not lead to the offense struggling, it could prevent him from potentially putting up those big numbers that would help secure that MVP for the game.
Yeah, and that's why I think a sneaky, value pick would be worthy at plus 2,500 because he doesn't necessarily have to get it through the air. He can, get it off of a pitch to the outside, get a huge play, and then get another receiving touchdown, and that might be enough to give him the MVP. If Patrick Mahomes maybe has maybe an interception or two, um, they might give it to him. Um, we did see, we've seen obviously receivers win it before. We've seen Cooper Cup was the last receiver who won it. Super MVP. So something like that can happen. And obviously Patrick Mahomes has won a lot. So maybe they want to give it to somebody else. But so I do see, but plus 2,500, it's pretty good if you just throw a few bucks on that.
Most definitely. And just taking a quick peek, the book I'm looking at happens to have prop up for what position will win the MVP. And right off the bat, we see quarterbacks minus 220 coming in just behind that, running backs plus 240, basically saying, Saquon Barkley there. Um, you know, it would take a hell of a game for Pachenko or Hunt to, in any way, shape, or form, walk
Yeah,
away with the
I think because they
MVP.
split, I just don't think it's possible, really. That's why I'm
Yeah.
surprised. Yeah, yeah, they're
Um,
pretty low odds.
yeah. It, there's definitely some potential value behind maybe a AJ Brown or even potentially a wide receiver for Kansas City Chiefs. Um, yes, he's a rookie, but I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Xavier Worthy has been having a rather standout playoff performance, especially with what seemed like uh, the coaching staff, or at least the offense, utilizing him more in these playoffs than we have seen through the regular season. As I mentioned, I'm beyond his anytime TD prop in that game. I am shying away from some of the Kelsey props out there. Just I think more than ever, we've seen Kelsey's age start to affect his play on the field. Not to say that he can't go out there and perform, but when you're talking about some of these props like his reception total being at 6.5, it gets to be a little difficult to argue uh, trying to play over in that situation, and at the same time, there's not much sense in playing under just because of what, or based off just what we've seen out of the Chiefs offense in the past and how much they can potentially utilize Kelsey, especially in a game like the Super Bowl.
All right, moving on to the national anthem. It's set at 121 seconds. The over under. I think a big over is at plus 100. For the oh no, that's the under. Plus 100 is under. Minus 130. So actually favored to go over. John Batiste is performing the national anthem. Don't know who that is. So it's hard to really say. I don't even know what kind of music. I usually can tell with pop singers go. I saw that pop singers go shorter country singers or different types of singers like that go longer. Um, like R&B singers go longer as well. Um, so as for this one, since the favorite is going to go over, I'll take the value on the plus 121 seconds is a long time. I'll take the value in plus 100 and I'll take the under.
Yeah, I definitely think there might be a little bit of science behind the over coming in, depending on what genre of singer you are. Uh, when you start to think about some of these styles and some of the things that just naturally accompany some of these different genres,
Yeah,
it was something I pointed out last year. I told you if the country singer came out with the guitar, the over was cashing. You know,
I mean this guy's coming out with a piano.
oh man, the over might cash. Slowing it down a little bit, probably. Oh man, see, like I said, there might be some science behind this because I'm not shocked that pop singers would fall on the under. Not to say it's a lack of vocal talent, but when you start getting into some of the little differences that separate some of these genres, like R&B singers, they're known for using their voices to flutter and extend notes and using their voice more like an instrument than just singing lyrics. So I'm not shocked that they would go to the over. Like I highlighted with I believe it was Chris Stapleton last year. All I know it was a country man with a guitar. You had to smash the over, and that's what we saw come in there. So yeah, not knowing anything about the artist, got to lean to the over just because you know, this is almost like advertising for a lot of these
That's true.
singers and artists. And so you want to get as much time up there as you can. And ironically, we're talking about something where if you try and take all day, people are going to criticize you for it. So, you know, it does become this game of how long do you stay out there, which is great for something like the betting world. Now there have been issues raised in some places about when is the song officially done? When the last note is played or when the last lyric is played? So that can be rather annoying in my opinion. But gotta lean to the over with this. Like I said, disclaimer, not knowing anything about the artist. Now you say if he's out there with a piano, I hope you're holding the ticket for the over. That's all I'm saying. But would definitely lean to the over with this one. Just more so based off past history and what we've seen out of some different artists over the years.
All right. Gatorade color. Obviously, the winning coach gets dumped with Gatorade bath every single time in the Super Bowl. The favorite color is actually purple at plus 100. Yellow green is plus 200. Blue is plus 600. Orange is at plus 750. Red is at plus 1100. And water is at plus 1200. I'm gonna take at plus 600. I'm gonna take blue. I think it's gonna be blue this time.
I love the fact that they throw water up there. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not even possible because of the sponsorships involved,
That's
and
true.
somebody would get fired. And probably not just one somebody, probably a team. Like, the Gatorade bucket gets dumped out on national television during the Super Bowl and it's water. Like, I mean, that sounds more like a potential commercial for Bobby Boucher to run out there and introduce that we got the Water Boy 2 about to release in theaters, because there's no way that the Gatorade bucket is going to have water in it. But I love the fact that they throw that up there because I'm not sure why anybody betting on water as far as Gatorade bath, donate that to charity, please, because it's going to be more useful that way. Um, I love the conspiracy theories that come out, this time of year about things just, like this about Gatorade bath and the potential that it could be. Um, because something I always found interesting was, all right, the water bottles that they're actually giving to players, where are they filling those up? Like, That's my real, not to say concern, but that's where my interest is peaked because all game we see people, handing players water bottles, squirting it through the face mask.
Yeah, that's water,
You
right?
don't know, but you sure as heck don't ever see like any, like cups or tables set up. And so, you know, anybody out there that routinely goes to games, maybe got season tickets, something to that effect, maybe worth investigating. But you know, it's definitely one of those props out there where best guess. Definitely no harm in taking one of your higher options with plus money as long as it's not water. Um, but yeah, I think I feel like purple was the color last time the Eagles and the Chiefs played, or maybe I could be thinking of last year's Super Bowl. I feel like I recall seeing Andy Reid get a purple Gatorade bath. Uh, but still, there's no telling what that means as far as this game and this matchup that we got this Super Bowl and this time around.
All right. Coin toss. Obviously, it's a 50-50 chance on a coin toss. Um, yeah, but the 55% of the money is on tails, and 50%, no, 50%, I mean, 55% of the bets is on tails, but 55% the money is on heads. So I'm gonna go where the money's at, and I'm gonna take heads.
Again, this is one of those ones where it's really dealer's choice. Hard to make an argument either way or the other. Tails never fails. Um, the origins of prop betting at the Super Bowl, the coin flip. Yeah, just to be contrarian and like I said, tails never fail. So I got to ride with tails. Won't be betting it, but we'll definitely be watching. Because we've seen it before, even on the big stages. Sometimes they screw up the coin flip. So now that would be an interesting prop bet to see come about at times. Is there any conflict over the outcome of the coin flip, or I'm not sure how they might word it, but give me that bet. Like that's what I want to see.
All right. Just some other ones. I liked Patrick Mahomes over 6.5 rushing attempts. That was at plus 110. Um, I think he's going to have some opportunities to run the ball. I think when he really needs to, especially if he's trying to keep pace with the Eagles offense, he's going to need to take off and run. Or if they're ahead by a lot, you got to count in the kneel downs. That also counts as a rushing attempt.
Yes,
So at
very
a
true.
plus number on his rushing attempts, the way Mahomes is protected by the refs when he runs the ball. I definitely think he's gonna go ahead and take off a bunch of times.
Yeah, I think that's a great prop right there. I've heard a number of different people focusing on his rushing yards. Not sure if we see that number come in, but I definitely like the thought behind the rushing attempts there. Like you said, if we're talking about a scenario where they're up, you can go ahead and tack on one or two kneel downs as rushing attempts. So really, you're only talking about needing basically 3, 4 rushes in this game. And I think there's a likelihood that we see a little bit of that, or at least more than usual with Patrick Mahomes. Um, something we've seen in the past, not just with this defense, but others. We're talking about playing on a turf field for the Super Bowl. You got more decals and more paints and sponsorships out there. We've heard talk before about how fast the fields play. And when you get into the conversation of some of these mobile quarterbacks, at a certain point, too much speed is a bad thing, especially for your defensive line. When you're talking about trying to maintain containment on some of these quarterbacks, and I think this is a great scenario where both quarterbacks in this game not only could be a threat in the rushing game, but definitely have shown that they have pocket awareness, mobility in the backfield. So even if we don't see them running downfield, we're talking about eluding potential sacks. Even if it just results in the ball being thrown away and getting recorded as an incomplete pass. And those reasons stated, I'm gonna be on the under 4.5 sacks total in this game by both sides. In the past, it was something I sort of targeted, leaning towards the over. And in this matchup, I think we're talking about two defensive lines that, off the top of your head, you would think would be able to get sacks. You got Carter, Chris Jones, Khalifas, who has not been as prominent in the sack department. Still, a major penetrator as far as getting across the line of scrimmage and causing havoc in the backfield. So that being said, I definitely think, along the lines of some of those potential sacks being, a missed opportunity and forcing the quarterback out of the pocket definitely could lead to, the possibility of Mahomes racking up, an extra rushing attempt or two because he saw pressure, evaded the pressure, and, scampered downfield. Even if it's only 2 or 3 yards, that's still a rushing attempt.
Yeah, and then another one I saw, it was Saquon Barkley, 150 plus yards. Yes, at that plus 250. I think that's just really good value. I think he can hit that. I think he can hit over 150. So I definitely like that plus 250 number, and I'm gonna take yes on that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make an argument that Saquon won't get to the rushing number. We've seen it too many times this season, regardless of who the opponent was. He's got the real question is, do we see Saquon break off a 50+ yard run? I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure there's probably a decent correlation to the amount of games where we're talking about him rushing for 125, 150 or more. Where we saw it play, him break off a 40, 50-yard rush. So that, if you're able to accomplish that, definitely throws in the possibility, or the over being a very more likely outcome. And though I don't expect Saquon to be utilized much in the passing game, the fact that you're getting that the total yardage out of the pass and the rush, nothing says that we don't see a screen play that goes for 30, 40 yards in Saquon's hands. Or some short pass where, a broken tackle and he's able to get 20 yards downfield. And even if that's his only catch on the game, you're still talking about adding potentially 20, 25 yards on top of whatever he sees rushing. And there's a reason why they're putting the number at, over 100. Last week we saw, I believe it was like 124, or not last week, but in the championship round, we saw around like 124 as the rushing prop. I think it's come down slightly for the Super Bowl, but we're still talking about a player who could easily break off 125 yards against pretty much any defense in the league. So I would like your bet there of the over 150 total yards more than the potential of going out and playing Saquon's over on a receiving yardage prop.
All right. I mean, we can go on and on all these props. There are so many. You can look at a lot of sports betting sites. There are a ton of props you can go after. We'll finish off with the halftime show. As we know, Kendrick Lamar is playing at the halftime this year at the Super Bowl, and they do have some props up for him. And we'll start off with the first song. Obviously, Humble is at the favorite at plus 160. Not like us is at plus 380. King Kunta is at plus 430. Squabble Up is tied at plus 430. As for the first song, I don't think he's it's so popular right now. It just won all the Grammys. I think he's gonna leave Not Like Us for last, just because that's what's been most popular right now. That's what's hitting right now. So I think he'll leave his best for last. I think he'll go with the humble. I'll take the favorite. It's that's something that everybody knows. I think that gets right into the show. I think he'll start with that. So even though it is the favorite, there's still some little bit of value there. So I'll go ahead and say that that'll probably be his first song.
Yeah, out of the choices presented, I would have to lean to humble. Partially because of when you look at some of the choreographing that goes on, it might have not been his big hit, but you're talking about essentially, his first big hit that, again, not to say that's what put him on the scene, but basically that's what made, Kendrick a staple across, the entire nation. So when would I like to see him come out with open with Not Like Us? Yes, because that's a hell of a statement in itself.
Yeah.
And go you, because you're doing the Super Bowl halftime show, so do that damn thing. But yeah, if we're talking about putting money on it, I definitely think he's gonna open up with Humble. Now I would not be surprised if Not Like Us was the second song. Like if there was a option for second song, I would be surprised if that wasn't the favorite. Um, but I definitely agree with you that I don't think we see the halftime show open with that. Another bet I would like to see: how many times is Not Like Us played?
Yeah.
That's another one out there. But
Well, that gets into how many songs will it be? The over under is set at 10 and a half. Plus 100 is the under. I think it does go under. I think it's right at 10 songs. I think he'll, like you said, he might do the same song, might do Not Like It twice. That's what I'm saying. And that would count as just one song he does. So that's why I think it's gonna be the under.
yeah, I would lean to the under there. Now, I haven't researched how many songs we typically see in some of these halftime shows. Uh, I definitely, if you do come across a prop like that at a sports book, I would definitely investigate the language of the bet, because as my man Caleb just mentioned, if he does Not Like Us twice, is that one song or two songs? Because if you're talking about how many songs performed, well, technically you performed the same song, but you performed it twice. And so you could potentially find yourself in some hot water depending on the wording of the bet uh, and things of that nature. But yeah, I think at least off the top of my head, I think we see less than 10 songs. At a certain point, you're talking about how much time are you going to be spending on each song. Uh, these halftime shows aren't that long. Yes, it's a longer than usual halftime show, but doing the simple math, if you spent a minute on each song, you're still talking about 10 minutes just there. And, again, without researching, how long does it take for the halftime show to start? How long does it end before, the players are coming back on the field? Because it's usually bumping right up against, you see the players walking back onto the field as the halftime show is ending. Um, so, I think in that window, we seen less songs, less than 10. Is it possible? Yes, you spend 30, 45 seconds on a song. Uh, Again, hadn't timed any of this, but I think it'd be something more, a faster routine would be something more similar to what we saw out of Usher last year, where, again, not knowing the total songs off the top of my head, it definitely felt like a lot.
Yeah,
It seemed
sometimes
like
they
he was.
go to like they do like one verse, and I guess that counts as them doing the song.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I mean, you could even do less than a verse. I mean, they could just simply do the chorus from one song, but the music switch, you hit the chorus, which really isn't more than maybe 4 or 5 lines, and then you move on to something else. You might spend a whole 20, 30 seconds doing that. I'd prefer not to see that just from an entertainment value. But yeah, short of it being some some sort of performance where we see him rushing through a lot of songs, which I don't think would be the case. Not to say that he doesn't have hits, but I think in comparison to
Yeah, I think
like
the ones that people know, I think he'll do it the whole
exactly,
song.
Rihanna, Usher, more, not to say mainstream, but I think when you get into how many listeners and fans outside of your typical genre do you have, how many people that listen to mainly country music know Rihanna songs or know some Usher songs.
Yeah.
When you start getting into those more quote unquote casual fans, I think that's where you have, a far greater deal of drop off when it comes to recognizing some of these songs. Um, so yeah, I definitely 10 is a lot of songs, and you said the under was at plus money on
Yeah,
that.
Underwood's plus money.
Wow, I gotta ride with the plus. I've been riding with the plus money all year, so you're gonna stick with the plus money, riding with the under on the halftime show.
Um, and then guests. The favorite is baby. We already know that says it will be performing with him, but obviously they always have multiple people alongside them. Uh, the favorite is Baby King at plus 110. Little Wayne is at plus 164, which I don't know. I think that probably changes because I think he announced that he wasn't going to be there at all. Um, but you never know; he might be surprised. And then Future at plus 184. I think that's pretty likely. But one I thought was funny was Drake at plus 3,500.
I'm sorry. Yes, that I might need to donate some money to charity because if I was to bet that market, I'm putting my money on Drake. I'm sorry. If you're gonna give me the option to bet whether or not Drake shows up at the halftime show as a guest, now I thoroughly man, that's another prop bet you might want to. Will Drake be in attendance of the Super Bowl?
There's
Because
no way. There's
I
no way.
man, see, these are the markets that I love when the Super Bowl rolls around because like I said, I might need to go donate a little bit to charity because this is definitely one of those bets. Your money's better off going there, but yeah, if I had to put money on something in that market, I'm going with Drake plus 3,500. Come on, give me the big win. Fucking 350 to 1 on your money. Yeah. Yeah. Ain't never like ain't never liked Drake. Ain't never really cared for his music. That's the type of bet where yeah, I'll become a Drake fan after that.
All right. Yeah, so many more. There's Taylor Swift bets, how many appearances, there's Super Bowl commercial bets, just tons of
Now
things like
that's
that you can
real
bet on.
interesting that anybody out there is putting up bets on the Super Bowl commercials, given that you can look up most of the Super Bowl commercials and watch them.
Yeah, that's true. Just tons of weird ones like that. Um, but that's all we got for you today. We can, like I said, we can go on forever. That'll be our show, and that will be the our show for the whole entire season. This is our last episode of the season. We thank you so much for watching and sticking with us all the way back since July. We'll be probably back during the summertime for our futures bets. Um, and we might do some recaps of the season. We'll never know. So look out for that. Some various videos um, we'll put on the channel. But yeah, like I said, just thank you for sticking with us for this great betting season. It's my favorite time of the year, making lots of money. I made some good money this year. Actually, won a lot of parlays. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think I did pretty well uh, on my betting this season. Um, so yeah, just I appreciate you all for watching. Yeah, we'll be back, so tune in for that. Be a little bit wait, but yeah, your thoughts on the season and the show overall? Be easy.
Definitely have to say that I was happy with my move over to the prop markets. Um, just that is something, we've preached on the show before. You got to find what works best for you, and sometimes that means not always betting what everybody's betting. Yes, prop bets are, gaining popularity, uh, especially during the regular season and things of that nature. Um, but you don't have to, you don't have to go out and try and bet the spreads or the game totals. You find those markets that work for you, and that's where you work your angles and your edges. And definitely this season, prop bets worked out in my favor. Even in instances where from a week to week standpoint. Saquon Barkley was a player that you could target throughout the year. Not to say, it's a trend where every week this is going to hit, but depending on what the matchup looked like, is something you definitely kept in mind and kept in your back pocket. Detroit Lions offense worked out for me a lot this season with them being as productive as they were on that side of the ball. So overall, definitely happy with the move. Just basically just betting props solely for the most part. Here or there, I might have sprinkled in just a spread player, a total or something. But definitely happy with the live. Well, I like the live markets. Now, I do think there's always more value and potential out there if you're looking at the spreads and game totals. With the in-game numbers that you can find, depending on what the scenario is. But real happy with what the prop markets have been able to do for me this year. Um, and also, people can make sure to sign up for the LGR newsletter at letsgetreadynetwork.com. Uh, and, be up to date on if there's any surprise shows over the course of the summer, recap shows coming out for betting the NFL. Because I will say, I do think we had another year where we are fairly strong on some of those angles back in the preseason. So might be worth revisiting.
Yeah, and we will be live obviously this Sunday, watching the Super Bowl watch along. So tune in for that if you want to come and watch Super Bowl with us. Um,
Ooh, I might have to come in with some live plays.
um, I think most of the team will be there watching. Some patrons as well. So yeah, tune in for that. And as for now, you can find me at NFLCaleb22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can find me on this channel doing Good Friends Battle Rivals. No show this week. We'll be back next week. And as much as we can, doing different videos on the Cowboys and Giants throughout the off season. I'll keep you up to date with all the news and storylines with our teams. So tune in for that as well. And you can tell everybody where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, the folks can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and at the Yard Bets on Twitter. And I'm drawing a blank on my Blue Sky. I need to do better on that. But yes, you can reach me at those social medias. Um, been slacking on my own channel. Need to get back into some things. You can also catch me. I just mentioned the LGR newsletter. I do Between the Lines segment within the newsletter where I'm diving into a variety of stories out there, mainly revolving around the sports world. Some more related to the betting industry and just some of the ongoings within the betting world, but also uh, reaching out into other topics and matters in the sports world. How ironic it is that we find the team that signed Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl after the offseason, where basically ownership wanted everybody to believe that the running back position was dead and not worth the investment. So, touched on, some of, maybe not dare to go as far as say collusion, but some highlighting what we've seen out of NFL owners, especially over the past few recent years, when it's come to some of the uh, hot potential contracts out there with some of these players. There's definitely some maybe not nasty work, but with things we saw go on with Lamar Jackson and his contract situation a couple years back with the Ravens, the whole Deshaun Watson situation and how that unfolded. And so, touch in the article, just touching on, like I said, for lack of a better word, some of the collusion out of owners. Gonna be talking about Terry Rozier and the potential dilemma going on there surrounding. It's being reported as potential uh, betting scandal, though I've yet to see anything that actually connects Terry Rozier to the Jonte Porter case. But these are just a couple of stories. I'm gonna be contributing to the LGR newsletter, and you can also find out everything going on with the channel. What people are watching. Depending on what shows you might already watch. They'll have schedules up and things like that, so you can find me there as well with the other socials I gave.
All right, and yeah, safe betting out there. I only bet what you can afford to lose, and like I always say, for the final time this season, let's get ready to make that money.